his eyes.
That might be a good idea because if it's unusually spooky or if it's escalating, try changing the work with him,
Mm.
circles to the right, straight lines to the left. But if you have somebody who's coming by like that for an appointment, it wouldn't be a bad idea if they
Yeah.
have the tools to have a look in there and just see.
Mm. Yeah. Yeah. I'll ask him. Good idea.
Yeah. Because
Yep.
that's kind of the number one cause if it's purely physical, but sometimes it can be related to
Mm.
work. Yes, my helper is here.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, so
Go, helper.
let me share the screen.
And I've only got one video, sorry, this week because it got a bit late in the evening. Well, it gets dark here at the moment at 5:30, so that's not very helpful.
Yeah,
Um, and yeah, so we've got 10 minutes.
that's pretty good. I'm happy to see Pablo moving. This is exciting. So he's
Mhm.
been consistently working on the
Yeah,
long reins now. And is he getting more
yeah.
forward?
So we do, yeah, definitely. I mean, sometimes he still goes like a snail pace, but other times he's quite forward.
The-
Well, I say quite forward for him,
For
quite
him,
forward,
absolutely.
not fast.
Well, and
Yeah.
the first biggest hurdle is enough comfort inside his own skin that he doesn't have the desire to stop. Like I don't care the
Yeah, and
speed. Yeah, it's
yeah,
mostly kind of overcoming. I'm getting some weird feedback. I'm getting, huh?
how are you from my end?
No, it just played back what I just said. But anyways, I'll keep going.
Oh,
Um, this looks fantastic. I'm so excited.
yeah, and he doesn't hardly stop now unless he's trying to pinch some grass on the side there. But no, he's really improving. Don't mind
Yes.
me, gotta get round like a right dag, don't I?
No, no, it's nice to see somebody cold. We're like having this is our hottest time of the year. So what I would do is
Ah,
as he goes slower, just there, you slowed your body down enough
mhm.
to relax your arms. I would have a little bit more
I,
contact on the reins.
yeah, I keep catching myself with him. Like Stitch is quite a bit easier because he's a lot more forward.
Yes.
With Pablo, I keep kind of forgetting sometimes, and I end up like this again. Um, and it's big loose reins. But anyway, I must keep remembering to slow down my body.
And the
Yeah, so that
support,
I don't
I
get in front of him.
yeah, because this doesn't always work, but it was exactly what Pablo needed was he needed the help and the resistance to sort of that excessive lateral movement in order to have enough energy to go forward. So with the hand walking and the
Hmm.
leading, he didn't have enough support to really get himself organized for forward. The long reins are working beautifully. And even the fact that
Hmm.
he could lengthen his neck and have a few strides of long and low without stopping is really showing how much you've built up the core strength and the stability of the midline. That's fantastic.
Yeah, I'm quite excited about it. I mean, he does go very low and as you'll see, and I do find I have to kind of hold my hands up quite a bit because I'm so paranoid he's going to step on the actual rope.
Yes.
His foot kind of is about that far sometimes from the rope itself, so I kind of have to hold it out the way a little bit.
Yeah. And just like there, you'll go just like you did with Stitch. You have the skills. It's just that when the horses are really slow, it's hard to get the right feel of amount of tension on the reins, and
Mhm.
it's hard to match that speed because it's sort of slow and slower. And it takes a lot of
Yeah.
awareness to
Yeah.
stay at that speed. If you go a
Yeah.
little bit closer to him, you might find it easier. Okay,
Yeah.
kitty,
Yeah.
that's enough.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, if you kind of maybe put your distance a bit more, can you see my little arrow?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
if you put yourself here, it'll be a little easier to manage the reins
About
when they,
3/4 along the line there.
yeah, because especially when they're slow and they put their head low. Whenever they put their
Yeah.
head low, I always move my body closer to theirs because the reins get harder to manage. And
Yeah, they do. Yeah.
the farther back we are on the reins, the harder they get to manage. So the closer
Mm.
we are physically to the horse, it just gets easier to adjust the reins and manage that when they get tricky.
Yeah. 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 But his body's kind of improving a little bit, isn't it?
A lot, a lot. Like
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
just off my face happy.
Yeah, no, it's good. I mean, he's still very grumpy. Like I mentioned about, well, he's just got a lot of opinions, and maybe that's just the horse that he is, right? But when I attempt to brush him, he pins his ears, stamps his feet, flicks his tail, just
Hmm.
really peed off at me.
Yeah.
It's same as if I don't actually rug him through winter because he just hates it.
Mm.
If I go to put a rug on him, he gets really pissy and, pins his ears and very narky about the whole thing. So, and I don't know whether that's just him or is it his
It's a
body? I
soreness.
don't know.
It's soreness. It's discomfort.
Okay.
And I mean, some horses are not super touchy-feely, just like some people,
Mm-hmm.
but that sort of
Mm-hmm.
like discomfort for grooming or rugs is just shows a sensitivity level that speaks more of discomfort than personality.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. And he only seems to do it to me. Like other people can probably do it fine. I had him spelling a couple of years ago somewhere and the lady was rugging him and I said, "How is he to rug?" And she goes, "Oh, he's fine." It's like, why does he do this to me?
He only
Is
saves
it
it
because
for
he because
mum.
oh, that's it. It's like, why? Why do you do
Mm,
that? Anyway,
I don't know.
is
I
what it
think
is.
children do the same thing, don't they?
Yeah, they do.
Yeah, so what I'm seeing is now we can really see the stiffness of the hind legs, the lack of bend through the joints, and how he has
Yep.
trouble bringing the hind legs up underneath. When he wouldn't move much, that was already happening and was the reason he didn't want to move much. But we couldn't see
Hmm.
it because that's what he was also protecting and hiding. So, what I
Yeah.
really like his desire to go forward, even though it's slow, tells you he is more comfortable, which doesn't
Hmm.
mean he's fully comfortable. He's just more comfortable. And so
Yeah. Yeah.
it's a work in progress, but his steady, really steady speed without a lot of stopping. His ears are sort
Hmm.
of like showing how much he's thinking about this. He's really
Hmm.
concentrating. He's very calm. And so far,
Hmm.
this is the most forward I have seen this horse.
Yeah. Yeah. And he's been like this fairly consistently lately, so it's pretty
So,
good.
so from here, I certainly wouldn't change anything yet. Because it looks like you're doing the long reins maybe equally both directions.
Yeah, yeah. We run out of a bit of light here, but I normally, at the moment, it's been 15 minutes in total, so about 7.5 minutes either side.
Okay.
I might increase it actually to 20 if he's going okay,
Yeah,
to
that
20
would
minutes in
be
total.
the next step would be to increase the time, 10 minutes each way. And if he can handle that, do that for maybe even a couple of weeks. And as it gets lighter in the year, just keep increasing the time he's working without changing what you're doing. Because
Yeah, yeah.
this looks this looks Ben.
She's like,
She's
"Hey,
like,
mum."
hello.
Yeah. Pay
You know,
attention to
this,
me.
I know, right?
Mm.
Um, this just looks fantastic and it's working. And he's
Hmm.
comfortable using the core muscles because I was really concerned with the hand walking and the leading. I thought, wow,
Mm.
that's, really weak if he can't do that. But I think he's quite a smart guy. And I think
Yeah,
without the long range support, he was sort of telling you, this is a lot of work. It's a lot of effort.
yeah,
And when you
yeah,
started creating that corridor for his body that was a little more precise than just the hand walking, he's like, yeah, thanks. That's what I needed.
yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah. And
Mhm.
maybe with his personality, I don't know, he's maybe not the kind of horse to kind of just suck it up and get on with it. He's like, no, that's discomfort and I just don't want to do it. He's
Oh,
just
yeah. No,
not
that's
the
what
kind, not the, yeah, not the easiest horse to push into things that he doesn't want to do.
that comes with the spots. Hmm.
Can't see the spots. Yeah, I
That
thought so.
comes with the spots. Yeah. And that's what I mean. They're usually very, very smart. And so
Mm,
they're a little bit strategic. And the beautiful part of Appaloosas is they really teach us to think further. They really resist us if we're either too simplistic or too demanding, or what we're
mm,
asking them to do doesn't make sense to them.
hmm.
They're first in line to let you know. They're not going to hold back their
Yeah.
opinion. And so that's why, like when he wouldn't go forward and you even, gave him a firm tap with the whip and it didn't work, I go, we're in the wrong
Mm,
exercise. And
yeah. Yeah.
that's what he's telling us. And he's not aggressive, but he's very clear when something is not working for him.
Mm, yeah.
And
Yeah.
with
Exactly.
with this sensitivity to grooming or blanketing or handling, what I would look for is part of knowing when we should move on from this particular exercise for him would be like he's already evolved enough that he really isn't stopping very frequently. That was the first big
No.
hurdle, right?
Hmm.
So now the next hurdle is getting him to where he could walk, maybe in the spring when you have more light, for a full hour.
Hmm. Yeah.
Like
Okay.
that would be the goal.
Hmm.
And without stopping, without needing to stop. And I would still do it within this exercise because it's going to take some time to build up those core muscles and
Yeah.
kind of
Yeah.
change his habit of movement. So it's not going to
Hmm.
be a quick process. It's not complicated, but I
Hmm.
would keep adding more time to his workout little by little. And then one of the
Yeah.
signs I would look for, aside from being able to work longer, would be that he's less snarky about being touched.
Hmm.
Because
Yeah. Okay.
the way the body's going to develop is the core muscles, which are the muscles closest to the bone. So we and horses have 4 layers of muscle, and what we call the
Hmm.
postural muscles that run along the skull, the spine, surround the pelvis, and go down the inner legs are what keep us upright and what keeps them sort of horizontally upright. So that's what you've already strengthened now. We can't see a lot of outer muscle development. We just know the core muscles are stronger because he's not stopping.
Hmm.
He's not
Yeah.
stopping all the
Yeah.
time, right? So then
Yeah.
from there, the muscle development works its way out. And if he's that sensitive to being touched and brushed, then we need to give him the time for that muscle, the muscle tone to change, which means the circulation through the muscle is changing. And that will start to affect how he feels about being touched. It'll be more comfortable for him to be touched once we start getting sort of a healthy restoration of the muscles on the outer layer. That'll be the touching part.
Hmm.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah. Yep. 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 It
And I
does.
have no idea how long that will take. I expect it would be
Mm-hmm.
months, not weeks. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and he'll let you know. So even little signs that he's tolerating it better are signs in the right direction. That even if
Yep.
he's a little
Yeah.
bit
Okay.
better for
Brilliant.
brushing. But I would just keep
Mm-hmm.
playing with, getting better on the reins, keeping maybe go a little closer, keep a more consistent contact, learn to be more and more
Mm-hmm.
precise in keeping the reins equal left to right, because that's how we feel all of the
Mm-hmm.
little bends of the spine. And just
Yep.
keep going.
Yeah. Yeah. Brilliant. Yeah. No, I'm happy with our progress. It's good.
Yeah, I'm thrilled because this was a little bit like, oh, it's either going to work or it's not. And with
Yeah. I
how
know.
how much he wanted to stop with hand walking and um even leading like that, I go,
Mm.
okay, that's just him being a horse eating the grass. But for the
Yeah.
most
Yeah.
part, he's not needing to stop like he was, which tells you deep inside on the deepest inner layer, you've made huge progress when they make that shift. It's a big deal.
Yeah. Yeah. Brilliant. Good, good. And
Yep.
something else I wanted to ask you as well, sorry. So he, as you can see, is pretty chilled out, right? But when he does get up, he gets he scares me, to be honest. Well, it doesn't take much to scare me around horses, but he feels like he turns into 20 hands high. So an example the other day is I was doing some long reining with him in the arena. And the other horses, I don't know what they saw in the neighbour's paddock, but they were going crazy, right? They were snorting and running around. So, rightfully so, he was frightened as well. And he stood there and started snorting. Um, and we just kind of walked up to the fence. My daughter happened to be there at the time, so she just put a lead rope on him the other side of the fence. But when things just turn pear-shaped like that, do you kind of what's your strategy? Do you just try and get into a safe position and stand still and try and be as calm as possible so they kind of because it was so up that even if I was trying to redirect his attention, he's like, I'm not even listening to you because I'm going to get murdered over there or something. But yeah, what's your strategy for that situation?
So in that, I mean, technically what it's called is a stress response. And there are five different types it's universal between people and all animals. And so they either go into a stress response, a defensive strategy called fight or
Mm-hmm.
flight, or the more
Yep.
complicated ones, fight and flight, or at least the obvious ones. That's the first layer. The second
Yep.
layer that's a little more complicated is called freezing or fawning.
Mm-hmm.
And what he
Yep.
did was he froze. He went into a freeze defensive response.
Yeah.
The most
Yeah. I
extreme one
mean,
is shutdown, which is a dorsal ventral
mm-hmm.
state, or dorsal vagal
Mm-hmm.
state. And that's what I was afraid he was doing when we started, but he's not. So, and even if he
Yeah.
was a little bit shut down, the freezing is a graduation of at least expressing his emotions. So the problem with
Yeah.
freezing is when you see they're on high alert, it's a combination of tension and anxiety at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
And there's
Mm-hmm.
no movement, but you can see that energy is just winding
Gonna
up
go explode
inside.
somewhere.
And
Yeah.
you really do need to keep your distance because as soon as they start moving, it's usually
Mm-hmm.
either extreme flight or extreme fight. It doesn't
Yeah.
come out quietly. And
Yeah. His is
and
normally extreme flight. He'll just
take off.
um take off.
Okay.
And if you happen to be in the way, then you'd probably just get squashed.
Yeah. So he isn't charging you, but he doesn't really know
No.
where you are.
No, he doesn't even know I'm there. Just
Right.
yeah.
And that's
Yeah.
what happens. That's the thing about even trying to go closer to put a lead rope on. They have no awareness when we're in a state of
No.
freezing. There's no awareness of who or what is right around them in their personal space. And so they don't
Hmm.
try to hurt us, but as they unfreeze and they're going to go into a pretty big version of fight or flight, we're just going to be in the
Yeah,
wrong place at the wrong time. So
exactly.
if he happens to be on the long reins when that happens, the really
Hmm.
good news is that you could put him on a circle immediately. And that's the whole reason I do the long reins without the surcingle. So
Yeah, okay.
just give him a moment when he freezes. Gently encourage him to move, but don't push him. But be
Hmm.
ready because as soon as he unfreezes, he's likely to bolt.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
And if you're
yeah.
sort of, if you take that moment while he's frozen at a distance, get yourself in position to at least hold on to the inside rein when he bolts around you. If you're pretty
Hmm.
sure it's going to be flight, with the outside rein, you can prevent him from running you over while he's bolting. That's the good part of the long reins. So
Yeah, yeah.
you can pull
Unless he
that.
does a stitch. Yeah, unless he does a stitch and just kind of come in sideways and
Even if he does that, you can kind of address it with a little bit of straight, little bit of turn, little bit of straight, little bit of turn.
yeah,
But
yeah,
it
yeah.
was it was horses that bolted chronically that kind of was the reason I started using the long reins long ago. And
Okay.
the long reins on a circle, they help the bolting horse kind of stay stable until they can wind themselves down. And so
Mm.
you just kind of hang on, and worst case scenario, let go of the outside rein and hold on to the inside rein if he looks like he's really
Yeah.
gonna lose it. But when a
Hmm.
horse freezes, you want to try to keep your distance.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
Or
If you were hand walking in the scenario, so you're hand walking somewhere and then that happened, do you kind of, would the strategy be just to kind of try to put yourself between whatever the scary thing is and the horse and just stay away at a distance and kind of wait for them to hopefully come out of it themselves?
you can, like the thing you can do in like freezing almost has to first be expressed as fight or flight before the horse or person can get back to a calm state. So it's kind of a
Okay.
two, it's one of those more complicated defensive things that is two tiers. So they don't really go from a true freeze back to just normal. They kind of
Okay.
they either need to move their feet and get kind of
Hmm.
away, or they're going to go and get a little bit aggressive towards the thing
Yeah.
or towards us, right?
Yeah.
But it's
Yeah.
going to come out kind of extreme. So like what I do if a horse is freezing is I try to get that eye contact back on me, but
Yeah.
at a safe distance. And
Hmm.
I'm sort of gently encouraging movement and gently or
Hmm.
firmly trying to get their attention off of that thing back on me. But I'm
Yeah.
always prepared that as soon as they take that first step, it could very rapidly become kind of a big deal.
A blow up.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
if you have a flag or if you have a long lead rope, or I just have to
Hmm.
make myself big if I don't have the tools. And I make myself big so they know where I am. Not
Yeah.
so I want him to run anywhere but over the top of me. So
Yes.
it's like you
Yeah.
you can go anywhere but here.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
But you
Yeah.
do have to understand, and that helps us prepare a little bit. If a horse goes into freezing, which is that deer in the headlights, no
Hmm.
movement with obvious signs of tension and anxiety, they need to
Mm.
express, even if a very short time, a little bit of flight or a little bit of fight before they can
Yeah.
feel safe again. So
Yeah. He snorts as well,
yeah.
which,
Yeah.
oh, it's like,
Yeah.
Jesus, don't do that.
Yeah. That's the
Yeah.
big warning sign. They do that
Oh,
blow and
yes.
that big snort. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Not great.
Yeah.
You'd never think it looking at him like this, would you? But no, he can get quite
Oh,
big when he's
I am not
big
surprised at
horses.
all. I'm not surprised at all
Yeah.
because it's like when a horse is not comfortable going forward, their first
Mm-hmm.
defensive strategy is a little bit of fight, which means you stay away from me,
Away from me. Mm-hmm.
and they resist
And they resist.
motion,
Mm.
right? But
Yeah.
in the right situation, with the right trigger, they can flip that coin from heads to tails and express the opposite like that. So to
Mm.
me, horses that lack self-propelled forward are the most dangerous. I go,
Mm.
give me a crazy thoroughbred any day of the week because what you see is what you get. But
Yeah.
it's like the quiet ones, it's those still waters that run deep. There's more going
Mm.
on than we can always perceive. And so
Mm-hmm.
when they blow up, it's the opposite. Like if they really don't like going forward like him, when they do go forward, it's the other side of that coin. It's the opposite in the same extreme.
Yeah.
Does
Yeah.
that make sense? So
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
remedy is the more he enjoys going forward, the more you're also solving the blowing up problem.
Ah, okay, brilliant.
Yeah, you're
Yeah.
solving both of those problems by getting him more comfortable going forward because then that
Mm-hmm.
energy, and I think why that happens is they resist forward because they're not good at it and it's uncomfortable. So when
Mm.
something finally triggers them to move forward, they have no control. They have no skills, so
Yeah.
they just blow up.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you're actually resolving the blow up problem the more he's relaxed and going forward in your regular work. And that's why I don't want to change what you're doing with him until he
Mm.
can work for an hour and
Mm-hmm.
until he's a little happier and more receptive to being groomed and touched and that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Because
Yeah.
those two
Yeah.
signs tell us that he's physically ready for something else.
Yeah. 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 And one other thing we've been managing to do, and I know it sounds ridiculously small, but for us it's big. I can actually pick his front feet up now to clean them. Whereas before he was so unbalanced and I don't know if it was a pain thing or what, but he would literally, if you got his foot up, he'd just pull it out or just like he was just really difficult to handle.
Mhm.
But now, yeah, now I can clean his front feet.
Yeah,
His back
because
feet aren't such a problem. It's his front feet for some reason.
because that's where all of his stability was. So
Mm.
it's
Yep.
like if you're balanced on your left foot and all your weight's there, and I say, hey, pick up your left foot, all you can do is hop,
Yeah.
right?
Yes.
You can't keep it
Yep.
up there. And so as you've
Yep.
stabilized the spine and the pelvis, that's also a really good sign. That should be a natural evolution. And it is a big deal
Mm.
that he can
Mm.
feel stable enough in his back and hindquarter to hold the front feet up because he's got stability
Mm-hmm.
somewhere else now, not just on the
Yeah.
front legs. So
Yeah.
I just
Yeah.
love this. I can see why you really love this horse. He's a character
He is,
and
isn't he?
yeah.
Yeah. He's not easy, but obviously it's, I've picked him for a reason somehow.
Well, he's one of those horses that he's the type of horse where um, we have to get it right for any of the
Mm.
training to work. And what I mean by
Mm-hmm.
getting it right is we have to deeply understand what works for horses, and we have to learn
Mm.
how to adjust our training to meet his needs. And
Yeah.
usually we're asking the horse to adjust to meet our needs, and we don't really think about the horse's needs until there's a big problem. But he's just the kind of horse, and I love these horses. They're always closest to my heart because they train humans about
Mm.
what every horse needs. But because
Yeah.
they
Yeah.
demand it, like you can't function without getting it right. But when you do
Hmm.
get it right, it's very rewarding because you start to see, he can be a normal horse. He's fine. He's a
Yeah.
great horse.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, and I
Yeah. So
love
I
that
might have
you,
a normal horse out of it.
oh yeah, totally. It's just going to be a matter of time. And that's why,
Hmm.
his very first sort of test was I gave you this, what I thought usually easy exercise, hand walk. Let's start there. Let's keep it gentle. And he just like
Hmm.
basically flipped us both the bird and said, that's not
Hmm.
going to fly, ladies. I don't like it. This isn't working.
Yeah.
And it's in that moment that horses like this start to suffer because the person
Mm.
starts to impose their idea, thinking that they're
Mm.
more intelligent than the horse.
Yeah.
And, that's why when you emailed me, I said, no, 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 let's not push harder than something
Hmm.
polite. Let's switch what we're
Yeah.
doing. Right.
Mm.
And then he made a little improvement when you were leading, but still not really finding this kind of forward that we're seeing now.
Yeah. No,
And
definitely not.
I thought the long reins tend to make most horses slow down, but
Hmm.
in some cases, when you have a lot of instability,
Hmm.
stabilizing the horse with the long reins can actually increase the forward energy. And that
Yeah.
was that
Yeah.
was him finally giving us the big thumbs up. But it took
Yeah.
some
Took a while.
experimenting. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And I think it also helps with him being driven from behind as opposed to pulling from the front. I think,
Mhm.
I don't know whether that's, yeah, he it tends to, um,
The
yeah,
biggest
like that a little bit
difference,
more.
well, the biggest difference is when we lead by the head,
Mm.
everything behind the head is sort of for him to figure out. And
Yeah.
he was so unstable. He's like, I can't get there from here. This is not
Hmm.
helpful. This is too hard. If I could have figured it out, I would have. So I'm just going to not
Hmm.
move. Right?
Yeah.
Is
Yeah.
what the long reins do is they create a soft corridor, just like our legs when we ride and
Hmm.
our reins when we ride. And so within that corridor, you feel every little tiny shift of his body side to side, and that
Hmm.
gentle resistance is sort of like it's like giving him a couple of crutches, so to speak. Not really crutches because it's more like it's not something he relies on, but it's like spotting him. Do you know when he gets a little wobbly,
Yeah. Yeah.
you're
Checks him to kind of move, yeah, to keep straight.
yeah, so it just gives him, and that's what we mean when we say support, right? So as he
Mm.
wobbles a little, you're there with some resistance to say, I've got you. Don't keep wobbling. Where
Hmm.
when you're up front leading by the
Yeah.
head, that little wobble is going to gain momentum because he can't fix it himself. Does that make sense?
Mm.
So
Hmm.
that's the purpose of
Yeah, it
you.
does. Yeah.
Yeah, any kind of supported work is sort of to guide the body by, just like if we're learning gymnastics, we have a spotter while we're figuring out the coordination, right? Or like in ballet, we use
Mm.
the bar
Yeah.
until we kind of have our own balance. And that's what the long reins, that's what they're doing for him, is it's like a ballet bar
Mm.
that he can just sort of
Yeah.
stabilize on either side until he's got it himself. And he instantly changed. And then he
Mm.
very
Yeah.
rapidly improved. And what I find
Yeah.
is instead of making horses do stuff across the board, when the horse can't or won't cooperate to do one thing, I've learned to rethink my strategy. Is this the right exercise? Am I doing it in a way that's helpful? Do I need to completely switch my strategy? Because I always find as soon as a horse can do something, they do it. They do it.
Yeah.
And I go, the
Yeah.
only reason they don't do it is because of fear or discomfort, defensiveness, stress. So I go, if I kind of play
Hmm.
around with different exercises, as soon as the horse starts to improve, that's how I know I'm using the right strategy. And that's a very different way
Yeah.
of thinking.
Yeah.
We were all raised to just get harder, more leg, get
Yeah.
spurs, get a bigger bit, pull
Yeah.
harder. And I
Yeah.
find horses like Pablo, especially,
It didn't work.
it wouldn't work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No. No. And
And-
I just knew something was wrong. Man, it's just hard, isn't it, when the trainers are kind of, encouraging you to push them through it and stuff. And yeah, it was just going pear-shaped.
Yeah. And I just, it never felt right to me. It took years, it took a lot of research. But I have to say, 100% of the time, even a horse like Pablo, we can see that when we switched from unsupported work to supported work to more supported work, we
Mhm.
finally found a place that Pablo started to say yes.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and that's what I look for. I go, when the horse tells me no, I don't always understand the reason, but I assume there's a good reason, right?
Hmm.
And
Yeah.
it could be based on the past, it could be something current. But what I look for is once the horse says yes, then okay, now we're going to make progress. And that's
Yeah.
just a
Yeah.
totally different way of thinking. When the horse says no, we beat them and leverage them. And I go, just
Yeah.
change what you're doing
Hmm.
until you get a yes. And
Hmm.
that's always going to
Yeah.
work better. And that's why I'm thinking, like with Stitch, if he's got this sort of extra spooky thing going on, that's him
Mm.
telling us he's stressed. We don't know why,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And what you can do in training without the vet, because you may have the vet on top of it, you may have to figure out if there is something physical, but training
Hmm.
wise, it's the same idea. So if he says yes to doing circles to the right, but he says no
Hmm.
to the circles on the left, then you can
Yeah.
adapt to kind of make it work
Mm.
for him right now. We don't always have to do
Yeah.
perfectly symmetrical work. We can adapt
Yeah.
to asymmetry problems.
Yeah. 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 That sounds good.
That may help him.
Yeah.
Okay. But
Hmm.
I just can't tell you how happy I am to
Yeah.
just,
Me too.
yeah, because I kept scratching
Yeah.
my head going, he's really not progressing. Like we gave him plenty of
Yeah.
time to see a difference in
Hmm.
each exercise. And when it
Yeah.
just feels like it's not really improving in tangible
Yeah.
amounts,
And the most simplest task, I'm thinking, wow, like this is pretty
yeah, it
pretty
doesn't,
bad. Like we
yeah,
can't walk around. What are you doing with your horse? Well, we're standing still because we can't walk.
yeah, we can't
Yeah.
lead. Yeah, yeah.
Can't lead. Can't lead. Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
kudos
So
to
no,
you.
I'm very happy.
You have done an amazing job, and it's just nice.
Oh,
I
thank you.
feel like Pablo is now on his way, where you're going to keep seeing improvements and improvements and improvements.
Mm.
And so next
Yeah.
time we'll check in with Stitch, but
Yep.
drop me an email. Let me know how that goes.
Yeah, yeah, I've got the vet coming today for the dentist vet, so I'll see if he can perhaps have a look in his eye if he's got something to use. If not, I'll get the vet out, I think,
Okay.
just to give him a once over.
Yeah,
So you don't
because
think oh sorry. So I've just taken Stitch off digestive EQ. I don't know if you guys have that over there. It's just an ulcer preventative kind of treatment. I think it just calms their belly. Um, that wouldn't have had much of effect, would have it? So he's been off that now for about a week, maybe a week and a half. Do you think that would do
it it
anything?
it could factor in the root cause is the emotional state. So
Mm.
he's having anxiety, which
Hmm.
means the, sympathetic nervous system is more active than it needs to be, which is
Yeah.
it's going to affect digestion and stomach, like ulcers, that kind of thing. So
Hmm.
if he if he was on that because he's regularly a little anxious, if his tummy felt better, that could be part of him feeling calmer. If you took him off it and
Mm,
the anxiety increased, he could have a bit of an acid stomach, so to speak. He could be, maybe not as
yeah.
comfortable in his tummy, which is maybe fueling the anxiety. The only way you would know
Mm,
is put him back on it and see if it makes a difference, if it was sort of working in the
yeah,
past.
yeah, yeah.
But something for digestion is going to work differently than the magnesium. The magnesium has a bit of a
Mm,
calming effect, but it works more on muscle relaxation
yeah,
as
okay.
opposed to digestive issues. And any
Yeah.
kind of like chronic stress or severe level of stress is going to affect the health. And so that
Mm,
health issue can manifest as muscle soreness, digestive issues, ulcers, all kinds of things. So for
yeah, yeah,
me, one of the most powerful things I can do to keep my horses healthy is also make sure they're, dominant in that parasympathetic nervous system, that they're in the learning frame of
yeah,
mind. And
yeah.
some days I go, we're having our 4th of July, and all my neighbors started shooting off fireworks 2 days
Oh,
ago.
wow. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
So
yeah.
it's, I stay home on this holiday to make sure the horses are okay, turn on all the fans and stuff in the barn, and they handle the
Yeah,
fireworks pretty well. But it's that kind of stress response that if it's chronic, something like changing the supplement can be just a little detail that makes a difference to him.
yeah,
But that's
yeah.
why when I see him working on the long reins, I don't see any of that anxiety. And we worked through
Mm,
the biggest level of anxiety on the lunge line when we first started. And that's where
mm,
he was charging you or he was kind of running. And as he brought that down a notch, now the work
yeah,
on the long reins is keeping him in a calm state during the work. And then
yeah, yeah.
even what did I have happen yesterday? Oh yeah, Rarely Wrong, who I have here, who's the newest addition to the barn. My neighbors took two of their three horses, loaded them in the trailer, and left the property. And the one horse left
Oh,
left behind was screaming his head off.
mm-hmm.
And the only horse, because we're adjacent where the horses are nose to nose over the fence, the only
Yeah.
horse that really lost the plot on my farm was Rarely Wrong. And it was
Right.
to the point I had to go out to her paddock, put a halter on her, and stand there with her for 40 minutes to help her calm down.
Wow.
And after that, that was our training session that day because she was just running her, and it was hot. I was afraid she was going to colic. So it's like
Yeah,
I
yeah,
hosed her off, stood with her in the paddock, and we just found a
yeah,
little bit of shade where we could kind of bring her anxiety down. And then
yeah, yeah,
even after I left, she paced a little bit, but she was better. So
yeah.
you
Okay.
can you can go in and help him sometimes like that.
Mm,
If it's a that was a flight response. She's running, she's all over the place, right? So I could catch
yeah,
her and get her to halt and slow down. With the
yeah.
freezing you're describing, it's a little trickier because you have to be careful
Mm,
when you're getting close because
yeah,
that's
yeah,
where you could get hurt.
yeah, yeah, definitely.
So, but
Yeah,
with
yeah.
Stitch, it sounds like it's more flight, like it's kind of an anxiety, need to move kind
Yeah,
of thing. So
yeah, yeah. It's
that's
just odd
why
it's come up so fast, that's all. I mean, I know it has been a bit colder and a bit windier, but he just yeah, just quite a bit spookier. And so I didn't know if it's yeah, I just happened to have stopped that digestive EQ about a week and a half ago. And I thought, I wonder if that's the timing of it seems to fit
it's
in, but I don't know.
the only way you would know for sure is before, like, just put him back on it.
Yeah,
And if he's
yeah,
back on it and you see a different horse in 2 weeks, then you know he needs to stay on it, at least for now.
yeah.
And
Hmm.
if it makes no difference after you put him back on it, then it wasn't that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay, yeah, I might get some
And
more. Yeah.
Yeah, and that would be the only way to know for sure is
Mm.
if you can get a lower dose and just or a lower amount and see if it works for just a couple of weeks, or just put him back on it and if he
Yeah.
goes back to normal, then we might not know exactly why it's helping, but it's definitely helping. And again, that's how you
Mm.
sort of let your horse guide you as an individual.
Yeah. Yep. 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 Makes sense.
Yeah, because if
Yeah.
that was the
I'll do
only
that.
change you made and he suddenly is worse, it could be related. It could be.
Mm. Yeah. Yeah. All right. I might, yeah, I'll grab some more. I was trying to
Okay.
save money, but we won't worry about the money when you got horses, do you?
Well, what I was thinking is try that specific product. And if
Yeah.
he goes back to normal, then look for a different version. Look at the
Mm-hmm.
ingredients, maybe find a
Mm-hmm.
cheaper version or something within that particular supplement. There might only be one or two ingredients that are really helping him.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
It might not be that product. Yeah, because I'm
Yeah.
not a huge fan of supplements. Like I go, the fewer the better. But
Mm-hmm.
if there's one, like even though that Equiox or Previcox is kind of expensive, it can make all the difference to kind of get the horse launched, and then I'm going to take them off it later. And with
Yeah. Yeah.
with
Yeah.
Stitch, maybe like I would, if it makes a difference, I would take him off it periodically, like you did, until
Mm-hmm.
it doesn't make a difference when you take him off.
Yeah. Yeah.
Does that
Okay.
make sense?
Yeah.
It just might be a
Yeah.
bit premature.
Yeah. 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 Okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
Hmm.
Yeah. Good. Good. All
Try
right.
it.
Lovely.
Okay.
Thank you so much. All right. Have a good day.
All
Thank you.
righty. You too.
Bye. Bye.
Bye.